Well, hello everybody. I'm back and we're ready to get working again, right? You guys have warmed up, your fingers are all ready to go. You've been practicing hard, right? All right, I hope that practice schedule thing has been working out. You've been dividing your time up efficiently and putting yourself in little time frames and practicing hard that way, okay? Make sure you have a goal every time you pick up your guitar when you're practicing of what you're going to accomplish, okay? That'll make your practice a lot more fruitful. Okay, so let's talk today about one more major scale that we're going to be adding to our knowledge. You might review the fact we've been working on a number of different patterns over here. We've given you pattern 3, pattern 2, and even pattern 1. Okay, so they look like this. That's pattern 3. Pattern 1 would look like in the key of C. If I was going to play pattern 1 in the key of C, I'd be right up here. And if I were going to play pattern 2, I would be down in this chord form right here, and I would be right here. And they all fit nicely into the chord forms that we've talked about. Okay, well, let's talk about one more pattern. And this is a very important one. I use it a lot. It's the pattern that would be built off of the open E chord form here. But of course, we've been learning how to make chords out of it, and it ends up being up here in the key of C. So when you have the chord form here in the key of C, we need a scale pattern that fits nicely over the top of this chord form. Okay, so I've written it out here for you, so you can just check it out at home. But here's what it's going to sound like. It starts on the root with your second finger, and it goes like this. And then there's one more note above it that you can play. Okay, so there's your major scale, pattern 4, right in that position. Okay, so that gives us a lot of, we're pretty much filling in the whole neck here. We've got 4 out of 5 positions ready to go now with major scales. Okay, so that's pretty cool, huh? So we can play with that now, and I'm going to show you, let's just practice it a few times before we get going with it too much. Okay, up and down a few times. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that pattern is really comfortable with our left hand because pretty much there's one finger per fret here. So I don't have to stretch out anywhere. Pretty much if there's a note on the 7th fret, I'm going to play it with my first finger. If there's a note on the 8th fret, I'm going to play it with my second finger and just on up the neck there. So it's very comfortable to play, and it's a lot of the basis for a lot of vocabulary that I play in this position if I were in the key of C would be generated right out of that scale pattern. Okay, so I'm going to also show you a new sequence to learn in addition to the scale pattern. Okay, this is a very common sequence, and it's important to learn this sequence and all the other patterns. Okay, so we're going to want to check that out, and this is also going to be downloadable with the lessons. Okay, so you'll see the sequence I'm going to play downloaded. Okay, so here we go. It looks like this. It's basically going to be every other note as you go up the scale, right? So it's going to sound like this if I played it faster. Okay, that's called diatonic thirds. It's the thirds of the scale, so I skip over every other note and I play the third above. So if I did it on 2 strings next to each other, you'd see it visually how it would work. Right, but that's not how you play it, right? That would be kind of stupid. So we'll do it in one position. Okay, so that's called diatonic thirds. It's a very common sequence for anyone learning music. It's probably one of the most common sequences, diatonic thirds. So let me go up to the next octave. And again. Right? So let's do it with the sequencer now. 2, 3, and 4, and. Okay, now to do that. Interesting. Okay, to do that backwards, we're just going to reverse the order. Right? And that's really what you want to do. You want to back that up. And then you've got a sequence up and down in diatonic thirds. A little slower this time. Okay, that's diatonic thirds, okay? Now, this is something that you're going to want to eventually apply to all your scale patterns, right? We've just learned it in pattern 4, but you can imagine what it's going to sound like if you do it in other patterns. It's going to have the same exact sound. It's just going to go only up to the highest note within the pattern and down to the lowest note in the pattern. So in other words, if I did that same pattern in pattern 3, it's going to sound almost exactly the same, except that I'm not going to be able to go up as high, and I'll actually go a little lower. So it would be like this. And then I would come back down. Right? But essentially, it's just the same 7 notes of the major scale. It's just the range is different depending upon the position of the scale pattern I play. Okay? So that's important to know. Diatonic thirds, we want to apply that to every pattern that we learn. And so far, now we're doing pretty good. We've learned 4 patterns, and we only need to know one more pattern. Okay? And we're going to go back to some pentatonics and some other lessons and review those some more and add some more to that. But these scales are really important. We're going to spend a lot of time working on scale patterns. I'm going to talk about them in this lesson, but I'm going to constantly bring them back because they are the basis for so much of what we're going to practice and learn. Okay, so don't feel like we're recycling anything here. We're just going over stuff because it's important. Okay, so I've got a new progression to sort of play with. You know, I think I'm probably going to take this off my guitar now because I think I've got enough magic hat on my guitar. So, Jen, how about you take that? There we go. So, let me stand up here and move over to the board here. And I'm going to write my progression on the board so you can see what we're going to play. We're going to talk a little bit about using our scale to improvise now. So, as I recall, I have a progression here in the key of C, and it went like this. C major to A minor to F major, and I went to G major at the end. And I just did it again. C major, A minor, F major, and G major. And I just repeated this twice. Okay. Seems like a pretty nice progression to talk about.